everyone, it's Will.
And James. This is our recap for the finale of Amazing Race Season 32.
We've been keeping this secret for 2 years, and now we finally get to talk about it.
Making this video is extremely bittersweet, obviously, because it kind of closes a chapter in our life, and especially with something we've held on to for 2 years.
And it's been really fun over the past 2.5 months to watch this season play out and relive the experience, because it has been a really long time. We actually went back to New Orleans 3 months after we finished filming, and we made a video about, reliving it and walking the footsteps that we did on the finale.
Retracing those steps.
Yeah, and if you want to watch that video, you can totally watch that. But I'm excited to talk about it because now 2 years later, I think our viewpoint of the entire season is different, because we actually got to see how other teams did. We got to see how the other two teams in the finale did, and it all kind of makes sense in our heads how it all played out.
Not only did we go back to New Orleans 3 months after we got back from the finish line, but we were able to go for the actual finale episode. We met up with our parents. They drove in from Houston and Tampa, and we were able to relive the finale with them. And we have been tight-lipped this entire time. We have not told anyone that we won, and we didn't tell anyone how we got engaged. I mean, granted, I think our parents knew. I mean, that's a question we got a lot on social media over the last couple of weeks since the finale aired, but it was more so they knew we got engaged on the race, but didn't know to what extent being the finish line.
Yeah, so it was so fun reliving it with our parents and having their reactions, because that was the first time they were seeing it, and they had no idea. So it was even better because it was a surprise.
Their reactions were
great.
I think we were watching their reactions more than we were actually watching the finale play out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So starting off this episode, we are leaving Manila, and as you saw in the episode prior, we are going to be flying first class Philippine Airlines, which, if you've been following our adventures through the years together, we've been on Philippine Airlines before.
Multiple times.
And we love Philippine Airlines, so shout out to them.
I think we all assumed that there would be some type of memory challenge going into the final leg, and so I remember being on the plane from the Philippines, reading our entire journal and seeing other teams doing the exact same thing, especially Hung and Chi. They were studying hardcore. Notes. And all of us, like every hour, we would look at it a little bit just to make sure we were, memorizing things and staying on top of it. Because I think all of us were stressed and full of anxiety knowing that this was it. But I think you and I, we really focused on ourselves. We had lots of conversations and made sure that we were both on the same page and talking through scenarios and making sure we were ready to go and calming each other down a little bit. So I think that's what the other two teams did as well, is just focus inward on your partner, because this one was for $1 million.
It was a long travel day to even get to New Orleans. I would say the flight from Manila we had a layover in Los Angeles, was about 13 hours, 14 hours. About a 3 to 4 hour layover in Los Angeles, and then we flew to New Orleans, which was another 3-hour flight. And so all in all, I would say it was a good 20-hour travel day, but a lot of great rest. I think that first flight, everyone slept, and I think we all kind of felt refreshed going into the final leg.
And we got to New Orleans pretty late in the afternoon. It was around 5 p.m. and so the sun had already set, so I think we all were like, oh, it's going to be a night leg, which is kind of cool because New Orleans nightlife is known to be a little bit more exciting, especially with Mardi Gras and Bourbon Street. So I think the night leg
was exciting.
All really excited. So yeah,
we land in New Orleans, and it was a mad dash to those taxis for one final time. And we got really lucky with our taxi driver. He was a native to New Orleans, knew exactly where to go, and we told him we needed to go to Louis Armstrong Park, specifically the arch of Louis Armstrong Park. And if you watch the bonus footage on YouTube, the Amazing Races YouTube channel. There's a really good 3-minute bonus clip of Will and I, and we are very calm. Here we are.
I feel like I'm about to vomit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we knew that at the end of the day, obviously our goal is to win. Like, we want to win. That's why we're here. But we really wanted to make sure that we soaked up every minute, every second of this final leg, because we knew once we got to the finish line, it was over.
Yeah.
Like, we need to have fun
Yeah.
and just soak it all in.
I think my anxiety and my stress stopped the second that we got into the cab, because it was like the build-up was a lot, but once you started going, I feel like we just had this overwhelming sense of calm. And
we were kind of at peace. Like, we knew we did everything we wanted to do on the Amazing Race.
yeah, and I also think, like, we had flown Philippine Airlines before, and so we knew the lounge that you can use with the computer, and so we did a ton of research looking at New Orleans. We drew out maps of the entire French Quarter. We understood all the street names and where parks were and
The
everything
different
was.
districts of New Orleans.
We did a
everything.
really good job of, like, wrapping our brains around where we were going, because it's an American city, so it's all in English. It's a little easier to understand than Paris or Berlin or Kazakhstan. And so going from the airport to Louis Armstrong Park, we actually knew where we were going because of those maps. And the cab driver also knew where we were going because he was a New Orleans native. And so the second that we figured both of those things out, we were so calm. And I think having that research prior built our confidence a little bit going into the leg.
We arrived to Louis Armstrong Park. We realized we're the first team to get there. Not by much. Hung and Chi, after we read our clue,
were right behind us.
So we start running into the French Quarter. We knew we had to find Bourbon Street. Will definitely knew where we were going. And we see Hung and Chi running on the other side of us. So it really was neck and neck.
And we got there first, but I want to say Hung and Chi were less than 30 seconds behind us.
Yeah.
And it's catching Mardi Gras beads, which is like a party in and of itself. And so each of the 3 floats had balconies above with party goers or Mardi Gras goers throwing beads down, and you had to match them with the
Grand
Marshal who was also on your float. It didn't register right away that we only needed the large beads, because your brain went straight to color, so it was red and gold, obviously for the Amazing Race. I think after maybe 5 minutes.
It wasn't for very long, because like there's even like a still photo of me rereading the clue, and I knew that immediately once we dove into the float, when we read that it was red and gold beads we needed to catch, we just started going after it. We wanted to make sure we at least started to catch what we needed to catch. And then as I was rereading the clue, it was very specific that you had to match what the Grand Marshal was wearing. So it helped us figure it out fairly early on that it was just the bigger beads. It was so much fun. I mean, the energy for this task was so eccentric, so alive, and the music was great, and everyone around us was cheering us on. It was just so much fun. I mean, how many times did I say that?
Oh my God, it was very New Orleans, very Mardi Gras, very party scene. We're on Bourbon Street, there's lots of music going on. We were having a great time. I think after we figured out that it was the large beads, we calmed down again because we knew we were doing it correctly. And they didn't throw a ton of big beads back to back. You had to kind of, be on the lookout for when those red and gold beads were going to be thrown.
Yep.
So you had to be paying attention the entire time to get the red and gold ones.
And eventually we each got our 50 beads. We turn them over to the Grand Marshal. We get our clue after our first check. And that's when we get all suited up with our, what are those things? Washerboards. And we had to march through the streets of the French Quarter with a second line band. And we had so much fun with this. So it was just like we really were immersing ourselves into the culture, I feel like.
Yeah, and you couldn't move faster than the band, and the band was kind of just, meandering down the street. It was just a quick little L-shaped pathway. And so you just kind of had to go with the flow. And when you're not in control in those moments, like when you're in cabs or when you're, in tuk-tuks around the world, now you're walking with a group of people and you can't go faster. So you just have to enjoy what's going on around you and listen to the music, play the music. I just remember like...
You got emotional at one point.
Yeah, I remember doing box steps because we were like, let's have fun with it. And we were doing dance moves and like crying because we were so excited. And it was just a quick little L shape around the corner of that street.
But before we even started to march through the streets is when we realized that the next clue was a roadblock. And we kind of already had a strategy going into this final leg that whatever the first roadblock was going to be, that was going to be Will. We assumed that the second roadblock would be some sort of memorization task or anything that would pertain to our journey from Trinidad and Tobago to New Orleans. Yeah. And I felt like that was more my strength. So... when we read the clue, though, and it said, "What did like who wants
to hold the baby?"
or something along the lines, like Will's face just lit up.
I understood the clue so much because of king cakes in New Orleans and being from Southeast Texas and have a lot of relatives who are from Louisiana, and Mardi Gras is in our town and king cakes every year. So I totally understood what this was going to be, and I was excited because I knew that, and I knew that I would do really well at finding a baby in king cakes.
When we arrived to Cafe Beignet, I remember seeing the tables lined up with all those king cakes. What did you think when you saw those king cakes?
I was not concerned whatsoever. I was not nervous. I was very confident going into it. And I knew exactly how to do this challenge and not miss the baby. And that was pushing with all your hands, covering the most surface area, and making sure that you weren't squeezing because the baby is about this big. And so if you squeeze, it can pop through those fingers really easily and you might not find it.
I didn't understand the strategy. Like, we weren't even in the same space, so I didn't even understand what he was doing. So it was just kind of funny to look through the window and see him pushing around the cake.
I know. And I kept like... your hands would get really, because it's icing, so it's sticky, and so my hands would be covered with icing, which has purple and yellow and green glitter and sprinkles. So you'd lick it, and so you're just eating mounds and mounds of sugar. And so I was just getting so full from the king cake, A, because it's delicious, and my fingers were covered, so I wanted to make sure that I had, you know, not a bunch of residue left over for when I was pushing on the cakes trying to find the baby. But I honestly found it within 25 to 35 minutes of where I was pushing on the cakes and finding the baby. You had the 2 racks of cakes, and I had only gone through one of my rack of cakes to find the baby, so I didn't even have to go to the second rack of cakes.
But you also had gone through all the cakes on the table.
Oh, like, I had piles of cakes, and I had like a really good system of the ones that I had done. I kind of moved around to make sure that I had room, so I wasn't making a huge mess. Because if you do this, the mess is getting everywhere, and if you miss it, it's going to be in the gunk. So you had to be a little more methodical to make sure you weren't missing anything.
Will finds the baby. I hear him yelling my name. I run inside Cafe Beignet, and we have to eat a half a dozen beignets between the two of us. So we just start going to town. And like Will said, it's similar to the cinnamon challenge where that powdered sugar starts to really dry up your mouth. And so it's not the easiest to get down. Chewing it, no problem. But it was the swallowing part that just got pretty exhausting after a while.
I think my body started to reject food because of all the king cake that I was eating and the amount of sugar that I had ingested. I really think my body was like, please don't give me any more sugar, because the beignet is pretty much dough like caked on with powdered sugar.
And they're fluffy. Like they're
And then when you put it in your mouth, it gets so dry you can't form saliva whatsoever. So you're swallowing and it just feels so dry. And I think after I ate the first one is when I couldn't do any more, because every time I would swallow, I would just come back up because it wouldn't go down.
I was having fun with it more so than anything. I wish they would have showed more of our banter, because at home, like, Will can literally eat a whole pizza to himself, but
easily.
On the race, we're eating one beignet and he's just gagging and about to throw up. It was hilarious. It was just so comical to me.
It was just a combination of a lot of things, and I think also being nervous didn't help because I was not hungry.
Well, you're
whatsoever.
nervous because once all three teams are there, there's really no telling who's going to find the baby next. So we really wanted to make sure if we were going to maintain any type of lead, we needed to finish those beignets and get out of there. So once we finish our beignets, we leave Cafe Beignet, run out to the streets of the French Quarter, and we have to find the Convention Hall H. Not really knowing how far away we were, we just assumed it would be easier to get a taxi. We got super lucky.
Yep,
that's
the
when we
only
found
taxi.
Jackson. It wasn't too far from where we were, but it was still a nice drive, a minute to catch our breath. Jackson was great. Drops us off at the convention center. We open up the other clue. It's a roadblock. I was excited that it was going to be a memory task until I read I would be jumping off the Connection City Bridge. And going into the race, Heights, whenever Heights presented itself, we said Will was going to do it. This one I got stuck with.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so true to The Amazing Race. Like, I got the full experience. You've seen people with fear of heights on previous seasons where they get stuck with it and they have to face their fear. So as frustrating as it was, I was just secretly, like, deep down, like, this is what The Amazing Race is all about.
I know I can do it, but it doesn't mean I want to do it.
I didn't want to fiddle through king cake.
Yes, you did. Your face lit up when you saw the idea of a king cake.
There wasn't a moment where I ever thought that, oh, he can't do this. It was more of just like, oh, he just needs to remain calm so that he's not psyching himself out. I was on the opposite side of where he was jumping underneath the bridge, so I could see and I could hear and we could talk to each other. And so I was watching, and the guys who were harnessing up James and also me, we were all laughing at him like, what is
Well,
why
okay, when
is
the
he...
guy is harnessing me up and I say, have you jumped off this bridge before? And he said, no, that didn't make me feel very confident.
You swung from this bridge? So I'm like the guinea pig?
It wasn't until I was finally on the beam itself, the guy told me to sit down. I have a conversation with him. Have you jumped off this? He had said he jumped off it 3 or 4 times prior. So that made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But when you're up there, the breeze, like the wind was so crazy.
Pretty chilly too.
And it was very cold. A lot of those nerves started to kick in.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I think really kind of kicked my ass into high gear was when Will looked at me and said,
For $1 million.
I knew that if I jumped, we would be giving ourselves a pretty significant lead, that this could be it. Like, I think in that moment, it was like, we could actually win this.
Yep.
And I jumped off. Grabbed the clue on the first attempt. Swinging above the Mississippi was insane. Like the craziest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was so dark. All I could see was this red light blinking below me for a boat that was literally just
ready
chilling
to come get you if you fell.
to catch me. But going up was actually the scarier part because you're slowly being like hoisted back up, and it was just slow.
Yep.
So you're just dangling
just hanging there,
praying. Finally, we get to the top. We rip open the clue.
And then we have to
We have to rappel once again down the bridge. But this time I at least had you. But you were even kind of nervous because it was just a weird...
It was a weird area to rappel.
And we're back to back.
And we were connected. And it was the part where the bridge is now over... Cement. So you look down from the bridge and it's just concrete. And if you fall, obviously you're going to die. If it's water, I feel in my head, I'm like, oh, if I fall in water, like it'll just make a splash. But in actuality, like you also might die.
But when you finally
but
take
when you
a
see
deep,
concrete.
But when you take a deep breath and realize, okay, we've got this. We're in the midst of professionals who are getting us hooked up. We can do this.
Yeah.
But it was just more uncomfortable. Not physically, but uncomfortable, like trying not to get in your head about it, being back to back. Like I really would have loved to have been face to face for this. But the whole way down, Will's like distracting me, talking about how the parking structure that's right there was for a cruise that he went on with his family. So we're
the
talking
year
about
before,
this cruise ship that Will went on with his family.
Out of New Orleans, yep. It was literally above the same parking lot.
Yep.
So... as long as we kept each other distracted of like, don't look down and look around you.
And looking out.
Totally fine. It was not a very long time to be rappelling, and you kind of had control over how fast you were going, so we were trying to get down a little quicker.
It was such a relief when we got to touch the ground, though.
Mm-hmm.
We
and I
took a moment to
and
celebrate.
I'm okay with heights. Like, I'm not super scared.
And this was higher than Berlin.
It was high. It was? it was higher than Berlin, so... But I also wasn't face down, which was terrifying. But yeah, I wasn't super scared. It was just the second that you looked down and saw the concrete below you, it was a little much.
Once we did touch that concrete, though, high-fived each other, got our harnesses all removed, and then it was just game mode, race mode, ready to go. We run over to the giant blue balls, and Will just jumps into one of the, what do you want to call it, a cage? A pen. Throws the ball over.
Don't crush me. Oh my God, it's so huge.
I catch it. We start pushing it down. When we were actually in New Orleans for the finale, we pulled out our maps. It was a good, I would say, half a mile run with this giant blue ball. The wind's pushing against it, so if you pushed it too far ahead of you, sometimes the wind would roll it back. So you really wanted to make sure you ran with the ball so it would be easier to maneuver against the wind.
And it's 10 feet, so it's a massive blue ball. So you're rolling it, following the arrows. We actually go into the wrong entrance. There were two huge doors in Mardi Gras World. We went through the wrong one first, roll it back out. We go to the next one, and that's the correct one.
Rip open our clue, which told us to search the Mardi Gras World warehouse for one of 3 crates that contained puzzle pieces to then assemble a globe. And the warehouse was so huge that you really didn't know where to start running, let alone looking.
Yeah. There was a lot of like figures and like Horton the elephant and Darth Vader and Dr. Seuss and all these different structures all over the place, and there were boxes and big black ones and small little brown boxes, and so everything just was overwhelmingly full of stuff. And so you're running around this massive warehouse and you don't really know what you're looking for.
Well, the only thing that we knew for sure was looking for a jester.
Yeah.
Which the first jester we saw was one of those jesters to like put your face through the hole, and that wasn't what we were looking for.
No. But you kind of like went into these pockets of stuff, and then we found a jester, found the box kind of quickly, not super long. We bring the box back to the ball, open it, and there's these massive strips of like canvas.
Which right away we knew the easiest way to really execute this task was to lay the pieces out on the floor, because there was a lot of working space. So why not maximize the floor to really lay out those pieces, put the map together before then assembling it on the globe. And I think because that was our approach, we did this very quickly. Mm-hmm. And once we kind of had all the different continents laid out, we slowly started to apply them to the ball.
And for us, we have this map in our bedroom,
which we look at every day.
We've had it for 5 or 6 years. We've had it for a very long time. And so knowing this like the back of our hand, because we see it all day, every day, helps us with our brains to understand the geography of the globe. Yep. And so as we're doing all these strips of canvas, we totally knew where everything went. And when you put them on the ball, you had to do one at a time. And so having the entire map planned out before even putting it on the ball literally helped so much. And there's one comment that James made right at the beginning of us putting the strips on. And he said,
line it along the crease like that. Smart.
And that helped us also make sure it was straight from the very beginning. Because if it wasn't, you'd get to the 30-second piece and everything would be crooked. Starting with that piece of follow the seam, then also having the entire thing already mapped out to
making sure all the Velcro aligned, because that was also part of the clue.
Yeah. So we had the ball, the Velcro on the right and the left of the ball. And James was on one side, I was on the other. You'd clip it, pass it to the next person, clip it, grab the next piece. And so we were just had a really good system of going and going and going. So we did it relatively quick. Like, it felt fast.
Getting it up onto the actual float, though, was the challenging part. Not only because you have to lift it up on top, but you knew that if you weren't delicate with that, the Velcro would pop or something would fall out of place. So we would try to make sure we were as careful as possible. But that's when the judge came in and told us that our assembly needed some work, which we knew once we put it up there. We saw a little bit of cracks here and there.
Little wrinkles.
Yeah, some wrinkles there. So we immediately knew exactly what parts to fix, rolled it back up on there, Judge comes out, says that we're good to go, get our final clue, which at the time we didn't know it was our final clue. I think we both kind of assumed maybe now that it's up on the float, we might have to do the memory challenge. Maybe there's like something we have to map out on this globe.
There's all these floats, so you're like, oh, I got to do something else in here.
Yeah, some sort of memory task. So we ripped open that clue.
This is it. Run to the finish line of the Amazing Race.
That's when I think it really hit us. Like, we are going to win. This is it.
Literally.
We are going to win the Amazing Race.
And we hadn't seen any other team since the King Kicks.
Yep.
So
and knowing that the
knew.
Superdome wasn't far either, we figured there wouldn't be room for a mistake
drive.
unless our taxi driver just really had no idea where he was going.
Yeah, we knew exactly where the Superdome was. We had our map.
You could see it.
You could see it in the distance. It's about between 5 and 10 minute drive from Mardi Gras World, because at this point it was like 10 p.m. at night, so there wasn't very much traffic, and so
the whole way
the
there,
whole taxi ride, I feel like I cried.
You did. There's a bonus clip of you
sobbing,
both of us
weeping,
really ugly crying the whole way there. Our poor taxi driver was like, "Oh my god, these two are annoying."
Oh my God. Our families are going to be so proud.
We arrived to gate A of the Superdome. We run up. First, we ran up the wrong way. There was a ramp that went up to the top part of gate A, and the doors were locked. So we're like, this isn't right. Went back underneath. They were unlocked. We could see through all the way into the stadium. And it was just one of those moments where, like, we did it. Mm-hmm. We did everything now we said we were going to do on our journey of the Amazing Race.
It was like, I don't know, knowing that you were running in to get first place was so overwhelming, and we were so excited to cross the finish line first, but also just the fact that we were running in to know that we had
completed
won,
it.
and we were going to win.
And then that second line band was playing, the Saints go marching in. How fitting. We get to the finish line, and it was just, I honestly, like, it was such an out-of-body experience. Like, growing up from 12 years old till the age of 29 when we ran the race, it was one of those moments where I had dreamt this for so long that I thought I was living in that dream. Yeah. And it didn't quite feel real to hit the finish line.
Yeah, I dropped my backpack at the 50-yard line and, like, sobbing as we're running up. And, like, the second that we both touched the final mat, you jumped into my arms, and I think it was just this overwhelming sense of, like, completion with being very proud of all that we had done and so excited for the fact that we did it.
And then Phil says to us,
11 countries, 17 cities, more than 33,000 miles. Will and James, I am pleased to tell you, you have won the $1 million and the Amazing Race. Congratulations.
Chills. Like, that's when my soul left my body once again, like, kind of like at the starting line when he says the world is waiting, go. Your body just like you don't know what's going on anymore.
Oh my God.
For the last 2 years, we've reflected on this moment together, and we really had no idea, like, what was said, what we said, nothing until we watched it and it all came back.
Yeah.
And then Phil set it up so perfectly, got down on one knee.
Will you marry me? I can't even speak for you guys.
I could not fathom what was happening
so much
in that moment.
So much was happening.
Like, what the hell? Like, I don't even know what to say about it. Like, we did it. And then
we did it again.
Oh my gosh.
You know, I had the ring in my backpack the entire race, and I had been contemplating of, like, when do I want to propose? Because it was something that I wanted to do regardless of how we did on the race. Just like the race was like the end of a chapter of working for it and applying and doing it together. And then after the race would start our next chapter of our lives, being engaged and getting married. So I knew that I wanted to do it on the race. I didn't know where. I was either going to do it when we got eliminated, which never happened, or if we visited a country that we had been to before that had significance, which was the Philippines.
Because that was our first international trip together.
So it was very significant for our relationship, but also that leg of the race was
the city sprint.
The city sprint. It was a little stressful. There was a lot of other things going on, and it just didn't feel like the right time. And so it just kept being put off until the finale. And so whatever place we would have gotten in the finale, I would have proposed. But it just worked out even better that we won. We were super excited. Phil set it up perfectly for me to then, propose to James. And to be honest, like, winning the Amazing Race, winning the $1 million is super impactful for our lives. But to then also have that be the starting point for the fact that we're now engaged and then going to be married.
Yep.
It just was the perfect moment for our relationship, for us as a team, for our future, that all of these things just worked out in a very oddly perfect way.
I really don't know what more to say other than this experience has been so life-changing and a dream come true. And to have done it with you made it that much more special.
Woof.
I just like it's slowly starting to sink in more and more the more we talk about it. But for 2 years, just like keeping these secrets, not being able to talk about it. We got to talk about it with each other. We got to talk about it with our cast. It's been a journey to get here. And as much of a relief it is, it's so bittersweet. Yeah. So bittersweet.
The 2 years was a blessing and a curse because we did have to keep the secret for so long, but also we were able to kind of get close with the cast and become a very tight-knit family of people who were competitors and now super close friends. And I also think it's like the Amazing Race, the whole experience is very awesome. But I think the lessons that you learn about not taking things for granted and soaking in every moment that you have in your life, regardless of if you're running around the world or not, everything around you is beautiful, and every opportunity that you get, like, take it and
you can
take
find
full
adventure in your
advantage
own
of it.
backyard.
And there's so many things that you can do to put yourself in amazing situations that are exciting and challenging and rewarding and putting yourself out of your comfort zone. And so regardless of the fact that we got to go around the world, there's so many other life lessons that I hope people who watch it can take away as well, of like, step out of your comfort zone, go somewhere in your hometown that you want to go to but you haven't gone to, or go to a state that you want to go to, or a country that you want to go to after you get a vaccine, and experience the world because it's beautiful. Like, you don't need the Amazing Race to go experience other cultures and to really learn about other people around the world.
Moral of the story is, after 11 countries, 17 cities, and more than 33,000 miles traveled, there still aren't enough words to adequately express our gratitude for just this life-changing experience, dream come true. Like, thank you to everyone involved who took a chance on the boyfriends, CBS, Bertram, Elise, Phil, the entire casting team. We are just so grateful. Yeah. So grateful.
Yeah. And all the crew of The Amazing Race.
Literally,
there's not
badass production.
It's not a better group of people
they
to
are
do
incredible.
What they do.
Yes.
They're way stronger than any racer has ever been on the show. They run with 50-pound cameras and sound equipment, and they're filming and doing all the things that we're doing. They're all incredible, and it was awesome to meet all of them and run the race around the world with everybody.
So thank you. And thank you guys for watching the season. Thank you for the support throughout. Even if there were some criticisms along the way, like, that's what makes these shows so exciting, to engage and interact and share those experiences openly. So we appreciate you watching our recaps and just hearing what we have to say. And if you have ever wanted to be on The Amazing Race, just don't give up.
Yeah.
Keep putting yourself out there, because timing is everything. Just don't give up on that dream.
Any dream.
Any dream for yourself. But yeah. I think that wraps up our Amazing Race recaps.
Wow.
I think on that note, if there's anything we can leave you with, it's just don't ever forget that regardless of what 2021 has in store for all of us, the world is waiting.